I'm Bruce Apar, and you're watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. You got an Amazon? So probably if I search for iPhone or something. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back. Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Chase Media Group and all of our wonderful products. As we like to say, we have multimedia market solutions for an omni-channel marketplace. And that includes, by the way, the weekly Penny Saver. And we want to thank our CEO, Carla Chase, and our Chief Strategic Officer, Frank J. Rich, for putting us up every week. And I also want to remind you that you can always catch all of the previous Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Townlink TV, or you can even type in Bruce the Blog or Bruce Apar, and you'll never know what's going to come up. But hopefully it'll be diverting. And we like to bring you people of interest in the community, and our community ranges far and wide. And you may know some of the people on the show. You may know somebody who you think should be on the show. And if you do, please email me at bapar@chasemediagroup.com. And right now, I want to welcome our guest, Robert Lebensold, but everybody knows him as Bob. Bob, thanks.
Bob Lebensold.
Right, Bob Lebensold, yes. And Bob and I know each other from the stage.
The stage.
Right, the stage, namely the Armonk Players, and we were castmates in Neil Simon's Fools a year ago, right? It was a year ago.
I don't know when it was, but in fact, I brought
Yeah.
a little.
Oh no! Oh no!
memento of that.
Who the heck is that, by the way?
They took pictures of all of us.
He looks disturbingly familiar to me.
They took pictures of all of us, and he was the one that they chose.
I won the booby prize, I guess.
The fool of the month.
Yeah. Anyhow, thank you, I think, for bringing that, Bob. Anyhow, I've been posterized. But Bob is the producer and host of a radio talk show on WVOX, which is the signal is 14.
It's AM 1460. We
AM.
broadcast out of New Rochelle,
Right.
and you can catch the live stream if you're out of the listening area at www.wvox.com.
And I also know that WVOX has an app. It's an app for the iPhone. I don't know about the Android.
I don't even know that.
Yeah, see that? You learned something new being on the show, Bob. Yeah. But also, you are a man of many talents. And I'll just read from your own website, which is environmentallysound.com.
.org.
.org. Isn't that what I said? No. Yeah, environmentallysound.org. And you list yourself as an environmentalist, outdoorsman, singer, songwriter, guitarist, and pianist.
Yes.
And you've also written, produced, directed plays, and as we just said, have appeared in them. But I wanted to talk a little bit, Bob, about your radio show, which I've had the pleasure of being on as a guest. You've been doing it for 11 years, right? Since 2002?
Something like that, 12,
Yeah.
something.
Since
somewhere in there.
2002.
Yeah.
And it's on, by the way, everybody, Bob's show, which is called Environmentally Sound, is on WVOX, as we said, 1460 on the AM dial, on the second and fourth Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. And when there's a fifth Thursday in the month, you'll also find them there.
You got it right.
Right. Yeah, see that? Not bad, huh? That comes from memorizing lines, I think, right? But you know, it's interesting. If our audience, if people in our audience inevitably are not familiar with WVOX, it's a essentially hyper-local, right, radio station.
Well, I don't know what that means, hyper-local.
Hyper-local means it's as local as you can get, meaning you know, it's like within, not only within towns, but within block by block within towns. I mean, that's the definition. It doesn't always meet that requirement, but hyperlocal is not just talking about Westchester County, it's talking about what's happening in individual cities, towns?
Well, actually, I don't think it fits that profile. Our range, the signal travels fairly far up into southern Connecticut.
Yeah.
Fairly far out on the North Shore of Long Island, all the way to Suffolk.
Yeah, and then, by the way, the North Shore of Long Island is pretty far out.
Yeah, but
that was supposed to be.
But actually, you know, we think of Long Island as being way, 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 but actually, it parallels the shore pretty much.
Right.
So it's not that far. So you can get it way out there, and the northern Bronx, I've gotten it as far as south as Canal Street along the FDR Drive. So,
okay. But what I'm saying though is, I mean, and it is described, it's self-described, WVOX that is, as a community station.
Yes.
According to its website, the Wall Street Journal called it the quintessential community station. You know, meaning it's not regional. It really focuses its attention pretty much on the Hudson Valley, right? The lower Hudson Valley.
Well.
And some of the areas that you mentioned.
A lot of our hosts, and to tell you a little bit about WVOX, the hosts produce their own shows and they do what they want, and I do what I want. Many of them are local and they involve themselves with local politics.
Right.
But we also have Albany shows, Dr. Alan Shartock's show, which is a statewide thing. And I do national and international. I've interviewed people in England, South America.
Right. But the reason, Bob, I'm dwelling on that is because I happen to be a bit of a news junkie in terms of politics and a lot of other aspects of news. And so, you know, I'll sample, let's say, MSNBC, Fox, you know, CNN. And, you know, my feeling is, why can't there be local versions of that kind of, you know, news commentary and opinion and talking heads? And so it seems to some degree VOX, as a radio station, not a TV station, is trying to fill that kind of a need. Is that correct? Or?
I guess the concept of the program of the station, Bill O'Shaughnessy is the owner.
Right.
It tends to be local, and we get a lot of local phone calls.
Local politicians, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And local politicians have their own shows. Mayor Bramson has one, Rochelle Mayor Davis of Mount Vernon has a show, and various others too, and some council people. And you know, to me, politicians, you just throw them in a pot and cook them up.
But then to some degree, just to extend my point a little bit, somebody like you, or could be akin to like a Joe Scarborough or a Sean Hannity, depending where you stumble on the political spectrum, you know, for local people, right? Is that's sort of what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I think we talked about that enough anyhow.
Too much.
But in looking at the guests that you've had on the show, and you list on your website all of the guests, some of the names that pop out, Pete Seeger you've had on, right? I mean, how did you get him? Did you just call his manager? Or?
I called him up. I asked him if he'd like to be a guest on the show, and he said yes. And he every year he has two festivals. One is a strawberry shortcake festival, and one is a music festival.
What about the Clearwater Festival over at Croton Park?
Right. The Clearwater Festival, right. Where he has fairly well-known music groups.
Oh yeah, that's a great festival.
But the Strawberry Shortcake Festival, I volunteered to be in that one time. So I said,
I guess you drew the short straw. Berry.
No,
okay.
Sorry. No, that was a pun. Okay. No, I asked Pete. I said, look, your festival's coming up. How about if I come up early? Can I get a chance to sit with you and talk with you? He says, okay. So I came up early. The thing I think was supposed to start at 10, so I got there at 9. And I went over, I introduced myself to him. He says, hang on. He said a few things to a few people. He says, come. He got me in his truck. He drove me to his house.
This is Pete Seeger.
Pete Seeger took me to his house on the hill. I had my guitar with me. His house on the hill overlooking the Hudson in Beacon, New York. And we sat, just the two of us, on his veranda.
And where is this? What town was this?
Beacon.
That's where he is. He still live there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overlooking the river. He just lost his wife recently, incidentally.
Sorry to hear.
And he got out his banjo, and I got out my guitar, and the two of us, me and Pete, were just playing together. It was fantastic.
Oh boy, shades of deliverance.
Then later on, I was making strawberry shortcake because I was a volunteer. I was helping with the preparations, and there's a tap on my shoulder. I thought it was one of my friends. I turned around. It's Pete. He says, "Come up on stage. I want you to sing the Hammer song with me." So I got up, and me and Pete did a duet of "If I Had a Hammer," which he wrote.
He wrote, yeah.
He played his banjo, I played the guitar, and his voice was not so strong in those days. It's gotten stronger actually as he got older. He was already well into his 80s, I guess.
Right.
And he mostly prompted the words, and I sang, and that was a wonderful experience.
Really?
So that
His
was
voice
his
has
pizza.
gotten stronger as he got older. Right?
Well,
maybe he should be tested for HGH. I don't know.
it was very strong when he was young. Then
Right.
in his 80s, it got, maybe it was just a temporary thing.
Right.
But I've seen him recently, and in fact, he's playing right here at the
Yeah, no,
Paramount.
he's been making, it seems, more local appearances.
Yeah, and he's last time I heard him, he was strong voice.
That's great. No,
I
that
think
is
maybe
that is good to hear.
At the
Yeah.
president's inaugural, maybe.
Yeah. No,
So
no, that's really interesting.
He was one
Yeah.
of my guests. That was
Yeah.
That's one of my great.
And then just
experiences.
quickly, we're not going to dwell on this,
No.
but names that I recognize who are on your past guest list: Walter Isaacson, who, my being in the media and being a magazine person over the years, was the editor of Time magazine, Walter Isaacson, and then he, of course, lately is known for writing that biography of Steve Jobs.
Right.
And he also, after he left Time Inc., went on to the Aspen Institute, I think.
Yes.
Became the head of it.
Yes, he's the head of the Aspen.
And I once had a very brief introduction to him. Very gracious, nice man, as well as very smart.
Oh, yeah.
And then the only other one let's mention for now, Bill Ayers, whose name rings a bell and rings some people's chimes in different ways
Well,
because of
He's an interesting guy.
President Obama, his connection to President
Well,
Obama.
his name was reprised because of his connection with Acorn.
Yes.
And the right wingers were trying to kill Obama's reputation by making that link. I mean, that's just
Well,
politics, right?
That worked well.
But Bill Ayers, Bill
was elected
Ayers
twice.
was one of the Weather Underground back in the '60s, and he did blow up police stations. He did stuff. I don't know if it's to his credit or whatever, but he would call it in. He would say, "Look, get everybody."
Well, I don't say that's to his credit.
Well, he would say, "Get everyone out of the building. We don't want to hurt people. We're just destroying the property." So, okay, that softens the blow a little bit. He was not after killing. Now he's a professor in the Midwest somewhere, and he's a respectable guy.
Right.
So whether you hate him for what he was, or you forgive him for what he did because of what he has become, I don't know. He's not apologetic about those days.
Right. No. And one other person I just want to mention quickly, just had a personal resonance, Steve Mayo. I knew, the reason I'm saying that, at Syracuse, the Newhouse School at Syracuse, there was a Steve Mayo who also was a publisher of one of the campus papers. I don't know if it's the same person.
I don't know, and I don't think I've ever interviewed Steve.
Is he about my age?
Probably.
Yeah, no, I bet you it's the same Steve Mayo. Yeah.
I never interviewed Steve. I was on a program with him. He's what's the word? A libertarian.
Okay, yeah, right.
And a businessman and a Sephardic Jew.
Yeah. Oh, okay, all right.
So that's who he is. I like Steve.
Yeah, no, I liked him then, and I
Even
just
though
wondered if it's the same Steve Mayo.
Politically,
yeah.
he's not where I am. But.
Okay. And so there's a bunch of things I know, Bob, that you and I want to cover. For those of you who watch ESPN, there's a very popular show on ESPN called Pardon the Interruption, where the two hosts very quickly run down in their 30-minute segment a host of topics and try and talk about each one somewhat meaningfully and then move on to the next one. So I think we're going to try to emulate that a little bit. So let's talk about newscasting, by which we mean people sit down in front of the TV or on the computer and they see what has become known as mainstream news, which now includes cable news networks, of course the commercial, non-cable networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS. And you seem to feel that the news that is disseminated is not really everybody's definition of relevant news.
There is no news on television. There's no news. There is no news. I mean, when there is news, you know it. It's in the ether. You hear it. People talk about it. When 9/11 occurred, did you have to watch the news? People calling, "Oh, did you see what happened at the World Trade Center?"
Yeah, well, where'd they see it? They saw it on the news.
So, okay, but somebody will see it and call you. You don't have to watch that. Otherwise, you're watching local politicians lie. Local events, traffic. And stuff
Well, I mean, when you say local politicians lie, if you don't agree with them, maybe you would say that.
No, they lie,
What?
whether you agree with them or not.
Well, do you agree with any of them?
Oh, I have some friends. Mayor Davis of Mount Vernon is a friend of mine.
So would you, okay, my point is, would you say he lies? No, I don't think you would say that.
Well, I wouldn't say it.
Would you support him?
I wouldn't say it. They all do sometimes. Well, they can be duplicitous. I just forgive my friends when they...
Maybe the word instead of lie is a harsh word to use in that blanket way. I would say equivocate. Is that okay? They equivocate. They try and sometimes have it both ways.
I do that myself, so I can't condemn it.
Straddle the fence. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also feel, well, you also have very strong opinions, believe it or not, about the weather, right? About the weather.
Yes, I do.
Now let's just say I'll start it off by saying today is a beautiful sunny day. What do you think, Bob?
Well, I think it is a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
But
I teed that one up pretty good.
But it's a beautiful sunny day. But if it were raining, it would be a beautiful rainy day. If there was a hurricane, it would be a beautiful hurricane. The gift.
Well, you have to be careful with that. And I know what you're saying, but there are going to be people watching this who go, "Is he crazy?" People's lives can be threatened in a hurricane.
Call me crazy.
We lose power, etc.
Listen, when Sandy hit, I lost power for days.
Yeah. But I'm saying lives could be lost though, in the extreme.
I don't wish for lives to be lost.
Like
Bill Ayers.
I'm just offering a disclaimer. I know, and I agree largely with what you're saying that. It's not just sun that is good. People tend to think in boxes.
Right, and even enjoyable. If I'm going to the beach or on a picnic or something, and they say, "Oh well, it's in the forecast." First of all, the forecasters get it right about as much as eeny, meeny, miny, mo, flipping a coin. They get it right sometimes, right? But if the forecast for inclement weather over a weekend kills businesses, and then the weekend comes and it's usually pretty nice.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would say they get it wrong most of the time. I don't think that's the case.
So they get it right 3/4 of the time. But, but I've had business people complain to me that, like people who run boats, on fishing boats.
Right. Who depend on the weather.
Yeah, or resorts. They say they're killing us. The last 6 weekends they predicted rain.
Now that's an interesting point. That is. I mean, so it could actually affect the local commerce, the economy, anecdotally at least.
Yes, but my objection is, I would love to go fishing in the rain. I love to go to the beach and walk the beach in the rain. It's wonderful to appreciate. Weather is a gift. Life is a gift. Why would you say, "Oh well, life is a gift, but I'm going to stay home because I don't like this part of the gift"? How could you not like it?
Right. So
that's what I have to say about weather.
So carpe diem, right?
Absolutely.
Seize the day.
Absolutely.
And seize the fish even when
seize
it's raining.
the carp.
Yeah, right. That's very good.
The fish.
Right. Now, so there's a couple of other things I wanted to introduce, because I know you are a deep thinker about a lot of things, and but let's talk just for a second about patriotism. Okay, because patriotism is both an interesting word, and it's very interesting the way different people interpret patriotism and actually enact patriotism. So there's a phrase that I use just to get this discussion going: the perversion of patriotism. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you. That when somebody who, let's say, may be called a super patriot, feels that if somebody else is in any way or to any degree criticizing the United States of America, then the quote-unquote super patriot will say you're not a patriot, which is patently absurd and actually an oxymoron, because if you love the United States of America, then one of the greatest attributes, almost to a large degree unique in our country, is you can pretty much say anything you want, in terms of free speech and the First Amendment. So people will invoke patriotism to basically deny the First Amendment. I mean, do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. True patriotism is supporting, first of all, our founding document, the Constitution, gives us free speech, right? Second of all, you could say, now, our founding fathers were patriotic Englishmen, I presume, at first.
Right.
And then they said, well, wait a minute, we're not getting a fair deal here, so we're going to speak up. It turned into a revolutionary war, and now we have our own country. Okay, to be patriotic, now, here's a controversial statement. Edward Snowden, the leaker of all of this NSA stuff, is a patriot.
Secret documents.
He's a patriot.
Right.
It's not even the secret documents. Manning was the secret document guy.
Right.
He said, this is what your government is doing. The government agencies, without they're violating the 14th Amendment on a moment-to-moment basis. They are illegally searching, and I don't know about seizing, illegally searching. The Patriot Act does not supersede the Constitution. Okay.
Right.
So he's a patriot. So a patriot is someone actually who does speak out,
Right.
who does try
That's
to,
right.
the watchmaker who tries to make the watch run better.
Right.
But the super patriots, you can't disagree. Wave the
Well,
flag
and
in
even,
one
you know,
hand
something-
and
and
the
even-
cross
right.
in the other hand.
And even then, they're hypocrites because
Absolutely.
they will disagree with, let's say, a president that they didn't vote for or don't agree with. When that president does something that they don't like, they'll disagree with it. When it's a president they voted for and you disagree, then you're unpatriotic.
Exactly.
So the whole thing is hypocritical. And
Completely.
You know, the thing is, if you have to go to that degree to invoke patriotism, you're making a political statement. That's what it becomes. You know, patriotism is implicit in the fact that we live here and we appreciate all of our freedoms. Anyhow, so that's enough about that.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And then something else that I wanted to talk about. Where do you stand? I'm just curious about this on nuclear energy.
Well, that's a very good topic. As the ads that we're bombarded with from Indian Point.
Well, I can already tell where you stand. Bombarded with.
Well, that's the advertising.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Because
yeah,
they're trying to persuade us, and they give us the positive points. The positive points are it's cleaner than burning fossil fuels, absolutely.
Right.
Probably economical, but they don't. They go, well, there are no downsides. Well, the downside is what do you do with all of that waste, which doesn't deteriorate for thousands of years, and
you're talking about the rods.
The spent fuel rods,
Right.
which they may be spent as far as being useful for generating electricity, but they're still radioactive and very dangerous. Maybe they could find a use for them. That would be a big
Right.
Advantage.
Yes. Right.
So it is definitely cleaner than
Right.
fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are terrible. They are. So
Right.
there is that. That's a positive. However, this particular plant at Indian Point is also vulnerable to attack.
Right.
The Hudson River is wide open.
Right.
Terrorists could drive up that boat up that Hudson River with cannon and bombard that place, and they'd have to release some stuff.
Right.
Even though it's protected with concrete and all that. And go to the Riverkeeper website, the Hudson Riverkeeper.
Which, and by the way, speaking of that, just sort of referring back to Pete Seeger, is Pete Seeger one of the founders of Riverkeeper, or is it just
he's
that
very active
very
with
active
them?
yeah.
Now I don't. He's 90, and he's last time I spoke with him, I said, "Can I help you with something?" He says, "You help me find my youth. Where did I put my youth?"
Yeah.
So he bemoans that, and he's
Florida.
lost stuff. He has lost some of it, but he's still a wonderful guy.
Yeah, but
yes.
as far as the nuclear energy
the Riverkeeper.
position that you're stating, Bob, the thing is, at least you sound reasonable about it. You know, I mean, you said that Entergy, which operates the Indian Point plant, you know, wants to make people believe that it's all good, but on the other side of that issue, the problem that I have with the credibility of the most extreme opponents, and I've written about this in blogs in the past, it's the flip side of it. They think it's all bad. You know, so I have a problem with people, you know, with activists who come out and everything is bad about whatever cause it is that they're promulgating. Well, nothing's like that. It's not all bad.
No.
So then I stop listening. Like, well, I don't believe you either, right?
Right.
But you sound like you're more of a moderate activist, if there's such a thing.
Yeah, I don't even know how to be an activist on that particular subject because.
And what about
because fossil fuels are so bad also. So you balance it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, but you're taking a reasoned approach to it, not an emotional, fanatical approach to it. And by that I mean, just not to belabor the point, which I am doing, is that it's absolute. It's all bad. It's nothing good about it. Well, no, that's not right either.
Well, I try to be rational in all things. Bruce.
Right. And then what about the cousin in terms of an environmental issue to nuclear energy, you might say, is fracking, hydraulic fracturing. What's your thoughts on that?
Fracking might be acceptable in 90% of its uses, but that 10%, it does contaminate groundwater.
Right.
It's a dangerous thing. It's like saying, it's just Russian roulette. Sure, the people who promote it put blinders on the bad part. It was great. And a lot of the people on whose land it goes, they lease out part of their land, say, sure, because they're getting paid. Right. I know a milk farmer, a dairy farmer upstate, he's pro-fracking. I say, why? Because since we put ethanol, it gets complex. Right. Since we put ethanol in gasoline, the corn has another market, which we use to feed our cows. So the price of feed has gone way up, so it's very hard to stay above water. And these fracking guys are giving us bucks so we can stay afloat. So I'm for fracking, so it becomes economic. And they say, what the devil with the environment? I want to put money in my pocket, and I'm guilty of the same thing.
And did you see the Matt Damon movie? Was it Promised Land, I believe it is? That's about fracking, actually. I
don't think I saw that.
It was very well done. It was very interesting. Anyhow, I know you're also passionate about a lot of things, but another one that we wanted to shoehorn in before time is up is religion. Okay. So, like in a word or 10, what's your thoughts on religion?
Well, first of all, you get people of faith and atheists are both 100% sure that they're right. So people of faith say, God exists. I know it. There's no question. Don't even bring it up. And they'll present evidence with the Bible. Okay, atheists say, well, the Bible's not really proof. It's lore, and I'm just as sure as you are that God does not exist. Okay, then there are agnostics who say, I don't know. I can't say it.
Right.
I'm just a little part of this mystery. Who knows where we all came from? Maybe there's a God, maybe there's not a God. I don't see a God. Show me a God and I'll believe. There's no evidence that there's no God because you can't disprove something. Right. You can only prove it scientifically. Right. So that's agnostics. And then there's what Franz de Waal, who's a well-known primatologist, calls himself an apathist. Apathy. I don't care about that. I'm not even going to talk about it. So I personally...
Is that a little bit like an iconoclast, I guess?
No.
Not really?
No. Iconoclast knocks down tradition and stuff.
What about nihilism? We want to get very philosophical.
Well, we don't...
Okay, we're not going to. We don't have enough time to talk about it.
We don't have to do that.
We can talk about Nietzsche if you want, but that's another...
No, not today. Not today.
Not today, right.
To me, someone who if you're looking at the mystery of life, like I meditate, and if you meditate, you're looking inside for whatever your nature is. But if you believe in God, you get to a certain point where you'd have to really start digging harder and say, oh, God is there, He takes care of it. So you don't delve as deeply as you can. Now, if somebody...
What are you saying? If you believe in God, you don't delve? I don't agree with that.
Okay, you don't have to agree.
Right.
That's my opinion is you get to a certain point. Now,
I do believe in God, and I, that's all. I'm just stating the other side of it.
If you are a person of faith, and you say, okay, I'm going to delve, and I'm not going to be afraid of what I find, and I still believe in God, then fine. But a lot of people don't. They just say, well, God takes care of it. It becomes lazy for them. And a lot of atheists are lazy too. So I'm not value judging it.
Okay, I'm glad you said that to even it out.
To me, if you go down to the very base of your own consciousness, you find things that you're willing to admit that there's mysteries that cannot be solved. You cannot.
Which is not at all at odds with being a person of faith or a believer in God, by the way.
Well, a person of faith says, I can explain it. God's there.
Okay, it depends who that person is. And to what you just said, Bob, I will say, amen. And anyhow, on that note, we've run out of time. Thanks very much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's always interesting to be with you and talk with you. And thank you for watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk.